Tracy Farrant here. So I was just watching a video and I thought about starting out on the right premise. So starting out in the right way. And I've been thinking about this for a while. Where some if we start off on the wrong foot or with the wrong information, the wrong number, the wrong time, the wrong data, more than likely we're going to end up in the wrong place with the wrong result and we're going to misinform and misguide and get lost. And I do believe that there's a portion of society that's a part. Some of the misinformation is because people start off on the wrong premise, and people continue with it because so and so said so, Mr. So and so, Miss So and so, they have a title, and then people don't question things as well. So I do believe that there's a portion, and if it's 10%, I wouldn't say it's a large number, but I do believe there's a portion of history, there's a portion of data, there's a portion of results in organization. There's a portion of things even in religion. There's a portion of things in just in topics, in podcasts, where people are being misinformed. Because sometimes you have to question the foundation of what the person is saying. For example, if it is that you're supposed to get somewhere by 3 o'clock, and you thought you were supposed to get there by 5. So you were supposed to get there by 3 p.m., but you thought you were supposed to get there by 5 p.m. on said day. You're going to start off on the wrong premise because you started out with the wrong time. So you're going to end up being late. Likewise, if you start with the wrong address, you're going to end up in the wrong place. So, wrong data, whether it's financial data, medical data, if you start off with the wrong information, more than likely you end up in the wrong place. So this is important to start with the right information, to start off on the right premise. So I was just listening to a gentleman. He seemed to be, I assume him to be a learned gentleman, and he was discussing a topic. But I'm not going to use a topic. It spoke about systemic something. So it was two words. But I don't want it to be focused on the topic itself, but just the premise on which people start off sometimes. And this is just an example. And he has his leg crossed um, in his suit and telling the people that this systemic thing does not exist. And he's not speaking on the basis of, there are 8 billion people in this world, you know, with different experiences. So you can't say this is it. You can say, oh, that's the sun. Everybody knows it's the sun. Oh, that's the rain. But in terms of personal experiences, you cannot speak definitively and conclusively when other people on the planet have different experiences. So that's one. But the most important thing is his definition. So he started off with a wrong definition, and this is supposedly a learned person. But learned for me does not necessarily mean university because it only makes up a very small percentage of our lives. If you live until you're 90 and you go to university for 5 years, a couple hours in the day, that's a very small percentage of your life. Most of what we learn will be by experience, what we've been taught as we meet people, we read, we watch videos, we experiment, we gain experiences, and so on. That's where most of our knowledge comes from. Well, let me assume that he's formally um, educated. And he's speaking definitively. And he says systemic something, and then he says it does not exist. And he's telling these little minds around him that it does not exist because there is no law in place. So think of it. What do you see is the problem? This systemic thing does not exist because there is no law. Think of the word definition. What's the definition of a system or systemic? It does not equal law. It does not equal policy. So for him to define a system as a law is just wrong. For him to define a system as policy is just wrong. Because system does not equal law. Policy does not equal system. So he has started off with the wrong premise. First one is assuming that his experience and his readings overrides the other 8 billion people on the planet or the people in his country, since it's a very personal topic. The next thing is his definition, and he's telling people that no law exists, and so this system does not exist, which does not make any sense. You have customary practices and all of those things, and people who are more learned than myself can you can look at the dictionary to see what a system is, what law is, what a policy is versus a system, and you will clearly see that where there are similar strands, system and law and the law, they are two different things. Likewise, system and policy. So he starts it off with a very just wrong, just completely wrong on so many levels. And then he's proceeding to inform people on this basis. So it's, and he sits there and people talk about confidence, and he's in his suit, his nice gray suit, and his leg not crossed. I don't know what you call it. In Jamaica, we say cut your 10. So he's cutting his 10. And one of the things people push is confidence. However, to an experienced and a wise, quiet soul, people will question you. You're not just going to eat up what you're saying because you sound confident, or we are wearing a suit, or you have a title. A title does not mean that you know what you're doing. You can be a great doctor and you write a wrong email. You write a bad instruction. You write a bad prescription because you never formulate the thing properly. So it does not mean, so even a medical doctor can make a mistake because they have a lack of skill in terms of their communication. Yes? So even if you're a learned person, so to speak, it doesn't mean that you know and you know definitively. And sometimes people make some grave errors, very, very great errors, and then mask it with this sense of confidence. For me personally, confidence means being grounded in humility. Humility says not that you're going to speak with a soft voice or no. You're confident, you're bold, but you lead with maybe two or three things. One, that you know and you have confidence in how you've gathered this information and who you are, but at the same time you're humble enough to know that you could be wrong. And so you open up yourself to say, oh, somebody else may have a piece of information that would change the perspective, because we know in part, we understand in part. As we know with humankind, all of this didn't happen today. Since maybe 2000, 3000, I don't know how long ago humankind has been around. All of that started with somebody knocking two stones together and getting fire. Or maybe the sun was burning and the dry brush and it just created a fire. Or somebody heat went to the soil and it turned the bauxite or whatever into metal. Then 500 years later, somebody discovered light, and then somebody discovered this, and then somebody put it together. So it didn't take a century. It took 2,000-3,000 years, if not longer, for people to gather together. So in the future, the same way, what people have today, 100 years, 200 years, somebody will add something to it, to what we already know, because we know in part, we understand in part. So we don't know everything, especially when it comes down to personal experiences and not a fact, like that is the sun, that is the rain. But personal experiences, you cannot decide that your experience overrides everybody else and it is definitive. You cannot speak like that. And he should know that. And so I would say, listen to how people start out and make sure you use phrases like, based on my experience, to the best of my knowledge, I believe, I feel, what I've gathered so far, or and so on, what I've read. So it's very important to ground your confidence in humility, knowing that there may be other information that you don't know as yet, whether now or in the future, right? Or something like that. So you're confident in that, and also you're confident in who you are and how you've gathered this information and in the integrity of the information. Anything outside of that, you are still willing to adjust it. So it's important to start off on the right premise so we can head in the right direction. So start off on the right foundation, start off with the right direction, the right address, the right time, and so on. It's very important. All right, that's it.